Okay, I think we can start, and other participants will join us later. And so I'm very happy, and we're delighted to see our American colleagues and colleagues from Canada and Mexico. And we appreciate that they agreed to discuss with us one of the main issues especially in today's world, and this theme is a global. Sorry, just a second. So sorry, we're having streaming on YouTube, and so our panel discussion is called Global Approaches to Teaching Research Methods in LIS, Library and Information Science. And our colleagues who have this global research, they will introduce us with the preliminary findings and methods. And this is very important for us also. And just one historical like excursion in the past, when in the second half, in the second half of the 18th or of the 20th century, as you know from the history, we had research or scholarly exchanges between USSR and other countries, and especially between USSR and Soviet USSR and United States. And one of the librarians, associate professors who went on exchange to the US, to the University of Maryland, he was he researched this important theme on research methods, and in 1970s, when he went there and he came back from this scholarly exchange, he published one of the articles on research methods in the United States. So, and it was very interesting, and even today it is often cited in our literature. And unfortunately today, one of our leading professor in research methods, Professor Varganova, won't be able to participate in this discussion, but we have some colleagues from as from our university school, LIS school, also from LIS schools from other regions of Russia, who teach research methods. And so I hope that this discussion will be very important for both sides, for us and also for you. And right now I suggest to start our meeting, our discussion, our panel discussion, and I turn to Christina. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Albina. Thank you very much for inviting us and giving us an opportunity to talk about the project. Can you share the slides? So my name is Christina Matuziak, and I'm Associate Professor in the Research Methods and Information Science Department at the University of Denver in the United States. I'm also a current chair of the Library Theory and Research section in IFLA, and that's the section that actually is sponsoring this research project. We are also collaborating with another IFLA section, and that's Education and Training section. I want to recognize our research team members. So several members of our section, Secretary of the Library Theory Research section, Dr. Egbert Sanchez, who's here with us, and also members of the section, Dr. Debbie Schachter, who will also be talking today, and Dr. Premila Gamaj. The research team was joined by two LIS educators and experts in research methods, Dr. Kiwana Bright and Dr. Monica Colon-Aguirre, both faculty at East Carolina University in the United States, and they will be also talking today. So the project Teaching Research Methods in Library Information Science, it actually has two phases. We started with a pilot that was conducted by Dr. Kiwana Bright and me in 2019. And I will briefly summarize the findings from that project, because I think it allows us to compare what's happening in the United States in other countries. And the findings from that pilot provided a foundation for the design of the international study. So why did we get involved in exploring this topic? And as Albina mentioned, it is an important topic in our field. It's about preparation of library professionals for the field of practice, but it's also about research and sort of an identity of library information science as a discipline. The issue obviously is not new. And for almost 2 decades, researchers are talking about the gap between LIS research and practice. And the proposed strategies for closing that gap focus on improving practitioners' research skills and increasing their research activity. The topic is getting now even more attention because of the new emerging areas of practice, such as evaluation, user experience, and research and data management. And all those new areas require skills in research design, in collecting and analyzing data. And an interesting fact is there's actually almost no international and comparative research examining how library professionals are being prepared for research in the global data intensive environment. I'm going to talk about, a couple of those areas such as assessment, evaluation, user experience, research data management, and generally academic research. And those areas are, relevant because library practitioners need to conduct research. Assessment and user experience studies represent kind of an applied area in LIS. Both require skills in collecting and analyzing data. Librarians in public and academic library settings are involved in collecting data to assess user needs and to develop new services. They design and execute evaluation projects to improve programs. However, the research literature actually indicates that there is a need for skills in evaluation and assessment, but our library and information science programs do not provide courses that would prepare librarians for this type of work. User experience studies and usability testing is another practical area where a good understanding of research design and skills in collecting and analyzing data are important. And again, there are few LIS programs that offer this type of specialized curriculum, preparing information professionals that know how to conduct user experience and design usability testing. And the role of librarians as researchers, I think, is sort of at the heart of this discussions, because LIS practitioners are not just consumers of research. I think this is sort of the traditional perception of librarians, that we read research articles, to be better practitioners. But increasingly, librarians are also contributing to scholarship in our field. So researcher practitioners conduct empirical studies of user needs, information seeking behavior, user perceptions of library programs and services. At many institutions of higher education, academic librarians in tenure-track positions are expected to conduct research and publish in peer-reviewed journals. And a typical model, and I will talk a little bit more about it in LIS education in the United States, have basically one research method course. And this type of model is just inadequate for preparing researchers. So, a lot of people in the field are now advocating for introducing more courses and exposing students to a more diverse research methods. Research data management is another emerging area of service in academic libraries. The data-intensive research environment creates demand for information professionals with knowledge of the research process and skills in managing and curating data. The quote on this slide comes from the prior IFLA-LTR study that was led by our past chair, Anna Maria Tamaro, and I believe she is involved in this conference. So that previous study focused on the roles and responsibilities of professionals in research data management. The participants emphasized the importance of knowledge of research methods for their work in data management. As one of the participants stated, it is really helpful when I go to speak to groups and do sort of educational awareness. It's good to have a good background in research methods to draw on. So knowledge of research methods emerged as an important area of competencies in that study. And frankly, in many ways, that prior study was an inspiration for our current international study. So I will talk briefly about the pilot study so we can have some data to compare. And then my colleagues will talk about the preliminary findings from the international study. In the pilot, we focused on the master's level programs in library and information science in the United States. And I want to give you a little bit of sort of the context about LIS education in the States. So most of our education is really on the master's level. So a master's degree in library science is required in the United States to become a professional librarian in academic or public libraries. We typically don't have an undergraduate program, and that's, I think, different from other countries. There are a few larger iSchools that have undergraduate program in information studies, but those programs are not focused on preparing librarians. Most students who enter master's programs to become librarians have an undergraduate degree in a different discipline, and often it is in humanities. So students will have a degree in history, English, philosophy, or art history. And because of that humanistic backgrounds, they don't have actually prior preparation in social science research. However, when they graduate from the master's program in library and information science and start working in academic libraries, they are often expected to engage in research and publish in professional journals. Approximately 60% of academic librarians at institutions of higher education in the United States are expected to conduct research. Master level programs are accredited by the American Library Association, and a degree from the ALA accredited program is required basically to enter the profession. So in the States, we have 55 programs that are accredited, and there are a few more programs that are also accredited by the American Library Association, but those are located in Canada. And I believe there is one also in UK. The accreditation of the programs is guided by the standards for accreditation of master's programs in library and information studies. And I want to point out that one of the standards actually specifically states that students should participate in research while they are in the master's programs. So let me talk a little bit about the pilot. The purpose was to examine teaching research method courses in library science professional education and to investigate how the master level programs are preparing future library professionals to be both consumers of research, but also practitioner researchers. The study focused on the MLIS programs by PLA, and we focused data from several sources. So we conducted a questionnaire, but also interviews with LIS educators and those who teach research methods courses at the master level. In addition to the data from the Qualtrics questionnaire and from the interviews, we analyzed some of the documents that are publicly available. So LIS program websites, handbooks, but we also got a number of course syllabi and instructional materials from the faculty that we interviewed. LIS is a professional organization of LIS educators, stands for Association for Library Information Science Education. And that professional organization publishes a statistical report with data about the programs, so the required and elective courses. We also looked at the data in that report and compared it to the data that we found on the program's website. So the content analysis of the LIS program websites indicated that 50 of the 52 programs that we reviewed offer at least one research method course in the curriculum. And the findings from that analysis were actually confirmed by the 2018 LIS report, where 59% of the programs required master students to take a research method course. So actually the data from the website analysis and from the LIS report were actually pretty close. The data on the electives kind of varies because sometimes a course can be required for a cohort of students in a certain concentration, and then it can be an elective. And our colleague Monica actually will talk about it in her case study about it, because it can actually vary depending on the concentration of the students. So the course outcomes focus primarily on the skills in understanding the research process, on evaluating publications in terms of methodology, and then designing a research project. So you can see those three, categories, the learning outcomes were pretty close. But then the fewer courses actually prepare students to conduct a research project and assist other researchers in conducting research, and even a smaller number was assisting researchers with data management. So the findings of this pilot indicate that the current educational model in the US prepares library professionals to be competent consumers of research, but it's limited in training research practitioners. In addition, what we found that most of the courses are designed as overview courses with an introduction to different methods, so qualitative, quantitative. But again, students have fewer opportunities to engage in data collection or in data analysis. A research proposal is like a cornerstone assignment, so they are sort of prepared to design, and then, there is usually not enough time in one course to conduct research. Interestingly, the faculty that we talked to were dissatisfied with this approach, and they were interested actually in expanding the number of courses and then introducing more experiential learning and designing courses that are relevant to practice. So preparing students for the new professional roles in assessment, usability, and research data services requires actually changing curriculum models and offering a wider selection of specialized research method courses. I also want to mention sort of interesting findings around student perceptions of the courses. And we shared that, I think, at the prior a conference, and because it probably is not the same in other countries. But in our study, what it became apparent, based on the interviews with faculty, that many students actually have negative perceptions of the research method courses and a high level of anxiety. Almost every faculty that we talked to mentioned that students were not interested in taking the course, did not see the course relevant to their professional pathways, and were afraid of taking the course. Obviously, if they had a positive experience in the class, that perception could change. So as I mentioned, the study was conducted in 2019, and we published the findings of the study. So if you're interested in seeing a full report, the article is listed in the references of this presentation. So the pilot focused on the US master level LIS education, which, as I mentioned before, is sort of unique because it does not require an undergraduate degree in LIS. So after the study, we decided to expand the investigation and look at the curriculum models in other countries. I would like to introduce my colleague, Dr. Debbie Schachter, who would talk about the design of the international study.
Thank you, Christina. So next slide, please. The purpose of the project is to conduct an international study to investigate how librarians learn about research methods within LIS education, specifically how research methods is being taught in programs around the world. Our intention is to collect information across LIS programs in order to compare and contrast across nations and programs. We also want to gather examples of both curricular models and case studies on what can be determined to be best practices in teaching of research methods in the training of library professionals to both conduct research and to be able to evaluate the quality of research in the field. The survey is gathering information from the LIS professional preparation programs, including both bachelor and master's level programs that offer the credentials required to work as a librarian or information professional within their nation. Of note, what is different from the US pilot study is that undergraduate degrees are the common qualification for librarianship in many countries. The research questions underpinning the research are the following. What research method courses are offered in the professional level LIS programs? What are the primary objectives for the required or elective courses in research methods? What is the scope and content of the courses in research methods courses? And what models are adopted in teaching the courses in different countries? We're applying a mixed methods approach to our data collection using an online questionnaire through Qualtrics. We've provided a link to the questionnaire with emails directed to research methods instructors in library and information science programs, or the programs in which LIS courses are taught. The questionnaire phase is followed by semi-structured interviews with LIS educators who teach research methods in LIS programs with the intention of collecting data from a range of countries on every continent. Initially, the questionnaire was developed in English, and as the research project moved from the pilot survey in the United States to collecting research around the world, it was clear that translating the questionnaire into Spanish and French would ensure a higher level of completion. Unfortunately, we were not able to translate into other languages, but the questionnaire in those 3 languages did achieve success with more than 300 questionnaires begun and 96 fully completed. As noted earlier, the second phase of the research involved the semi-structured interviews. We've recruited participants through a question in the questionnaire, which asks individuals to indicate their willingness to participate in an interview of up to 1 hour at a time and date convenient to the participant. In conducting the international study, a number of challenges have arisen, some anticipated and some not. One of the significant challenges involved the difficulties we encountered obtaining research ethics approval when the study moved from the pilot phase in the US to an international study and with the additional investigators. Because the researchers are affiliated with different institutions in several countries, the ethical requirements for research involving human participants at each institution are different, and the responses from the different ethical review boards led to some delay in approving the additional investigators. Ultimately, each researcher gained approval to participate. The interviews were conducted with one or two of the researchers with a study participant. The interviews were also conducted in either English or Spanish based on the language of the participant and the language skills of our research team. The use of Zoom for the interviews allows us to record the interviews with both sound and video. The tool also allows us to automatically generate a transcript of the interview. Interview transcripts and recordings are downloaded, and each transcript is reviewed by a research assistant to ensure that the transcription is as accurate as possible. Some of the challenges we encountered with the study included connectivity challenges, although primarily those who indicated interest in participating had good connectivity, as did the researchers. Time zones are an obvious challenge to conducting interviews internationally, but the researchers have been able to identify times that worked as well as possible, given the many regions. One of the overarching challenges that we encountered was in identifying appropriate participants for the study, since we were looking to receive responses from instructors teaching research methods. These challenges included identifying LIS programs in each country and identifying the appropriate instructor to connect with. The American Library Association has a directory of LIS programs, which we used initially, but in many cases we needed to do specific research in countries to identify the existing programs and the specific instructor who teaches research methods. We relied upon colleagues in many countries to help distribute the survey via email, and in many cases, the most positive responses have been based on the individual, that's through personal relationships or relationship-based. As I referred to the previous slide about the number of completed responses, we have been collecting our interview data. It has become clear that there's significant difference in interpretation of the concept of teaching research methods at institutions around the world. Sometimes this term has been interpreted as teaching effective searching or information literacy, while other respondents identified research methods or research methodology as an important component of their LIS program. The difference in level of these programs from undergraduate to graduate and postgraduate programs may also explain some of the difference in approach and interpretation. One other important challenge to note is that this research has been conducted throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. There was a slow start in the summer and fall as far as survey respondents due to a number of factors, but the sudden and unanticipated changes to our lives due to COVID-19 is clearly one reason for the initial low response. Individuals reported being exhausted by constant online meetings, and email responses seemed to take more time than in the past. And on some occasions, we even found it difficult to connect with individuals who had expressed interest in participating in our interview. Other individuals were less receptive to participating in the research during the period and saw it as one more thing to do and not a priority to them given the circumstances. Overall, however, there was a strong interest in participating in the research, and the number of completed surveys and interviews are a testament to that interest and engagement. Importantly, knowledge mobilization is a consideration for sharing the outcomes of this research. The research team has discussed the most effective means of sharing the data and its implications, leading us to communicate through several means. First, through conference presentations, and we thank you for this opportunity to present our study today, as well as the intention to present fully on our results at conference and in journal articles once the data collection and analysis has concluded. In addition, We are planning to publish case studies based on our interviews and have invited participants representing a number of countries to contribute their cases to the monograph. We are pleased to report that interview participants have expressed interest in participating in that endeavor. Now, I would like to turn the presentation over to my colleague, Dr. Kawana Bright, to report on the preliminary findings. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to still be awake at about 2:42 a.m. my time, but also very happy to at least share the preliminary findings from our study. We are still doing some data collection, and we are definitely still doing data analysis, but we do have information that we think is important to start sharing out now that will give others a better understanding of what we're already finding. So in terms of our participants, as was noted, we have been able to get multiple people to start our survey, and we had reached at one point 317 survey submissions. Only 153 surveys, though, actually included data that we could actually work with. And from that subset, we were able to identify 96 surveys that were considered to be fully valid. And by fully valid, we mean we actually had responses to all of our questions, or at least the majority of our questions related to the types of courses being taught and information about those courses. Within our submissions, we actually have 36 countries represented. And then in terms of our interview participants, we are currently up to 29 interviews with participants from 19 different countries. And so in this particular map, this is just a visual way for us to see how widespread we've been able to reach out in terms of our survey respondents. The darker colors do represent more responses from those particular countries. Our connections in Mexico, thanks to our colleague, have been really positive, as well as his connections in Latin America. So we've had really good response from that area. We are still continuing to work on some areas around the globe, as we've not gotten as much response there or any response. So we're really hoping to reach a few more areas. But this map does at least represent how well we've been able to reach out globally. And you can see just how widespread the responses have been to the survey. And then this map right here just zeroes in on what we've been able to see from the countries for our interview participants who've responded. And once again, darker colors on this particular map also reflect more interviews conducted. And we definitely see that happening in Mexico and also Latin America there as well, especially with the ability for our colleagues to be able to do those interviews in Spanish, which was really helpful for identifying instructors who were able and willing to share that information, who might not have been as comfortable trying to share that information in English. So that's been a really positive aspect of the study for us as well. We typically have tried to speak to between 1 and 2 instructors from usually different programs within the country, as a way to recognize that different programs might be approaching teaching research methodology in different ways. So in terms of what we found from the survey responses, as we have noted, and as was something we expected, preparation in terms of professional preparation globally actually focuses a little bit more on undergraduate. So the bachelor's degree is actually where we see most of that happening. Of course, there are graduate programs, and in many cases, what we're seeing are undergraduate and graduate programs at the same school. So these are just almost like a stair step for many students who maybe start in the undergrad and then move up to the graduate, but they only need the bachelor's to be professional librarians in their country. So we weren't surprised by this, but this is definitely already that departure from what we see in the US model, where our students are coming into our programs with a bachelor's degree, but not in anything related to LIS typically. So in terms of the curriculum models we were seeing, whereas in the US, the model focuses mostly on that one class. Here you see a domination for 2 classes, and in many cases, more than 2 classes being taught. So the majority of responses that we had from those who completed at least this first part of the survey show that nearly 55 of the programs were reporting we offer 2 courses in research methodology. Some programs, of course, are still offering only 1. That's still a high number, but also this number that's 43 responses of more than 2. So there's at least 3, if not more, courses being offered within those models. And so we also asked them about the types of courses in terms of whether they were required or elective, because that's another aspect of the conversation where students may not be required to even complete the courses in the US model. And here we see for those who offer the first course that they reported on, that the majority of those courses are required. And this was almost 80 of the respondents who indicated that yes, of the first course that I'm going to talk about, it is required for our students. And you definitely see that as you go through and see the second course that for the programs that offer multiple courses, 2 courses, that the majority of those are also required. So even in the US, if there were multiple courses, and we typically only see about 3 programs that have more than 1 course, research methods course, that second course is typically not required of students to take. But here in the models we're seeing globally, there is a first course that is required and typically a second course that is also required. And then for those who did report a third course, and we only asked for up to 3, even if they had more than 3 courses. But for those who reported the third course, you're still seeing about 21 who reported that the third course is also required for students. So this is a very big distinction between going from just 1 course that might be required, possibly elective, to the fact that for the most part, the first course you take is likely to be required, as is the second, and you're likely to also have a third course in research methods. So to sort of summarize what we've been seeing, we have what we call a scaffolding approach going on. In the US, we talk about a scaffolding approach within the courses where you see the course assignments building on top of each other. But here, this scaffolding approach is really referring to the idea that you're stacking the courses on top of each other. So there's an introduction to research methods in more than 1 course in the bachelor's program. And this is where they're expanding the knowledge and the skills from an introductory course later into a thesis seminar. So there's already a connection to something a little bit bigger than just a project proposal that they might be putting together. But you also see embedding of research methods in other courses such as information behavior or user experience, which is also another slight departure from the US model, where there really wasn't a lot of discussion about the embedding happening. There was discussion about the hope for the embedding, but not really a discussion about how they were able to embed in other courses within the curriculum. And then you see the advanced coursework in research methods happening more in the master's program, where they actually get this introduction to more diverse methods, but also conducting research for a master's thesis. So once again, there's this connection from learning about research methodology and then moving it over to the actual production of research, the completion of an actual research project, in this case, a master's thesis. So when we asked them about the outcomes for those introductory courses, when we were talking about the outcomes from the US model, there was a lot of focus on just the literacy of the researchers, just getting them to basically understand research. And so even here in these courses, you definitely see an outcome focus on understanding different types of research. This is an introductory course for them. And also a lot of focus on designing a research project. You do get a little bit more emphasis here on the evaluating different types of research, and you actually see lots of courses where they do execute or conduct a research project, even in an introductory course, which did not happen as much in the US model. Now, we did also see here, similar to what the US model had, less emphasis on assisting other researchers in conducting research and also assisting with research data management. And so a little bit less of that practitioner side of the research practice and a little bit more emphasis on the actual conducting of the research. Then when we asked them about the advanced courses, this is where you also see a lot of focus on designing the research project, which is not surprising for an advanced course, but the number who also report the outcome of executing or conducting a research project. This is almost all of those who responded to this particular question. And then also still an emphasis on understanding different types of research that's highly reported and evaluating different types of research. And then once again, we do still see a little bit less emphasis on these courses teaching about assisting with research data management or assisting with researchers in terms of conducting their other research. And so just like with the previous study, the US model, Christina talked about the student perceptions. And since that was a surprise finding for us, we wanted to sort of get a sense of what this looked like globally to see if it was similar. And the responses were actually very mixed. Students did find the courses challenging, but they also found them to be useful because they had those thesis projects to work on and also useful for their career pathways. And this is definitely a departure from the US model where there was anxiety and fear, and then also the idea that the course wasn't needed. Like, why am I taking this course? It's not important for me. It's not important for my career. And so we're seeing less of that here and more of an understanding of why the course is important. And so some of the respondents told us that, the research methods subjects are often considered challenging by the students, but challenging is not the same as frightening or being scared. It's something you have to learn how to do. They also talked about them liking the practical exercises, but complaining about the amount of work. And I think that's pretty common for any course where there's actually coursework taking place. And then this kind of dichotomy of some loving it and some finding it to be a hoop to jump through, which I think a lot of us, when we think about courses and teaching new topics, some people either really love it or think, I can get through this, it's no big deal, I'll figure it out. And that's kind of that mentality. But I think really the most important part here is the lack of fear, the lack of anxiety. There was no discussion of that happening. And I think that's important for understanding maybe why there is more courses being taught in the global system and fewer courses being taught in the US system, and students being more prepared to take on research methods courses so they're not as afraid of them because they're getting them in that bachelor's level and it's not something that they're being introduced to as master's students. And so now I'm going to actually turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Monica Colon-Aguirre, who's going to talk to you a little bit about the case study, the US perspective from the way she teaches her courses.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Well, good morning where I am. It's almost 3 in the morning in the East Coast of the United States. Thank you so much, Dr. Bright. I am Dr. Monica Colon-Aguirre, and I will talk to you about my research courses that I teach. I am a professor at East Carolina University, and here in the United States, in the state of North Carolina, we only have master's degree students. So these students have already completed a 4-year college degree as a requirement to come into the program. Contrary to the special cases that Dr. Christina Matuziak was mentioning before, that in the United States, some larger programs tend to have a bachelor's degree or an undergraduate degree. Our school does not support that model. We only have master's students. Another thing that it makes us a little peculiar in the case of the United States is that our program only prepares librarians. We don't support areas such as records management. We don't support areas such as archival sciences, which in some programs in library and information science in the United States, there's also that addition. We only prepare librarians in 3 areas: academic librarianship, who will go on to work at universities and colleges, public librarianship, and school librarianship. Our students, about 80% of our student body is admitted as school librarianship as a concentration. Many of them come from the public school system, particularly elementary grades education. And because of most of them have gone through teacher preparation, very few of our students come to our program having had previous knowledge of research methodologies. We get a few of them, but they tend to be the students who came in with backgrounds actually in the social sciences, but that is not the majority of our students. So that is more or less how our student body looks. So we, in my institution, East Carolina University, are one of those peculiar cases too in the United States, because we actually have 2 required courses. They're required at different levels for research methods. Most of the programs offer just 1 course, and in this case, we offer 2. So the first course is called Research Literacy, and that is kind of like in some ways, the title can be misleading about what we are teaching. It is a research methods course, and it is an introductory research methods course. This research literacy course is actually required of all the students who are in the program. So in order to graduate, they have to complete this course. And here I need also to make very specific that our students do not complete a thesis in order to graduate. They actually complete a portfolio. And the final project for this elementary or basic research course called Research Literacy, the research proposal is part of that portfolio. So in this case, that is their final project. The lessons are scaffolded. So we treat the different parts from what is research, defining what is empirical research. And then we move on to areas such as creating a research problem, completing a annotated bibliography, compiling a literature review, and moving through the parts of the research project. And then they finish with a research proposal. They do not collect data. They just design the study that they want around a research question of their choosing. And then the second course, then the research methods in library science course is the name of that course. Here this one is only required for students who are completing the academic librarianship concentration. However, we have to clarify, many students take it as an elective. Most of the time, I am sorry to inform, it's not due to interest necessarily, but also lack of options. There's not that many elective courses offered during that semester. So students take it because, well, that's the only thing that there's there. But there's also a few of them who actually want to go further. In this case, with this research methods in library science course, the students do complete a pilot study, usually something very small. They do gather original data, they collect it, they analyze it, and they present results and conclusions based on that original data that they design. Some of them move from the project that they did in the research literacy course. Some of them start from scratch because of what they learned. It's also important to point out here that one thing our program has is that our courses are fully online and fully asynchronous. So we record lessons and we create the course, and our students complete it at their own pace with due dates for the larger assignments. And most of these courses tend to have lots of assignments. In my courses, they have 8 assignments per class, and it's actually writing assignments. So it takes quite a lot of time. So I would be remiss here if I don't point out the problems that the COVID-19 pandemic had brought into delivery of the course. Even in a fully online course, such as these courses have been always online, we didn't deal with the problem of having to turn them online, but we had a few issues. From the get-go, when the pandemic began, the first thing that happened was that the university gave the students the option to apply to receive a pass-fail grade. In the United States, courses tend to be graded in the majority of the programs, receiving letter grades. Each letter is assigned a point value, and that gives us a grade point average. A, B, and C are the higher grades, and they were turned into a pass. Having a pass-fail means that the students did not have those grades, pass and fail, those classifications don't carry point value. So it's almost like this course was passed, but it doesn't affect the general grade point average of the students. So that was the first option that the students were given. They had to request that from the registrar's office with the university. Another aspect that happened is more of what I had to intervene, because I had nothing to do with the pass-fail decision that was mandated by the university. We were not given that the option to even give an opinion about that. But I had to deal a lot with flexibility for deadlines. Even though the classes were online and asynchronous, the students were dealing with a lot. Many of our students are teachers, and they're practicing teachers. And they were basically, their whole world was turned upside down from in a few days, basically. We went in the United States, the crisis went really fast. And so they needed time to absorb what was going on. A lot of them were dealing with COVID-19 infections for themselves or family members. So it was a very delicate time. So there was a lot of the deadlines that didn't happen, a lot of relaxation of deadlines. It's like, okay, don't turn it now, like you can get it to me next week, no problem. Also, a lot of flexibility with data gathering project structures. For example, there was an assignment that they had to conduct an ethnographic observation. So they would get familiarized with ethnography and participant observation. They had to go to a library. All libraries were closed. So there was no way of doing that. So we moved it to, hey, let's do some content analysis based on what is on the website of the libraries. So that was kind of like required a little bit of quick thinking. Another thing is the topics that the students have chosen. Our students tend to stay with very local, very direct topics that affect their jobs. But with the COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen a lot of topics related to COVID-19, health policies, and especially for the library, remote services in libraries, which was something I rarely saw papers related to these. Now I've seen quite a few, and even electronic collections. So bringing in materials in electronic format, which became the main way we access information during the COVID-19 pandemic. So that is my part for this presentation. And now I pass it to my friend and colleague, Dr. Egbert Sanchez, and he will talk about the Mexico perspective.
Thank you very much, Dr. Monica Colon. I'm very happy this morning to share with you some findings and give you a brief overview of what the Mexico LIS education is about. And I'm very happy to be part of this research team, a very, very great research team. And we are very enthusiastic about what we are going to do with all those findings. As you have seen on the map, the Latin American countries are very well represented in this research. We have countries as Costa Rica, Guatemala, Colombia, Peru, Chile, Brazil, Uruguay, and Mexico. I will give you a very, very brief overview of what the LIS education is in Mexico. Mexico is divided in three parts: the northern part, the central, and the southern part of the country. We have 9 undergraduate programs. In the northern part, we have two universities that teach LIS. That is the University of Chihuahua and the University of Nuevo León. In the central part, we have San Luis Potosí, Jalisco, 2 schools in Mexico City, and 1 school, LIS school in the state of Mexico. And in the southern part, we have 1 school in Chiapas and 1 school in Quintana Roo. We have 4 master degree programs. As you may see, we have 1 in San Luis Potosí, 1 in Mexico City, in Quintana Roo, and another 1 in Chihuahua. 1 PhD degree program that is situated in the central part, that's Mexico City. And the country is, I think, is very well represented with 3 online undergraduate programs, 1 in Jalisco and 2 in Mexico City, and the other master degree program in Mexico City. As you have seen, next please, as you have seen that we moved from a survey to some semi-structured interview. And I think it is we have a very great view of what is done in the Mexico situation, because one of our interview was the coordinator of a program. We have 1 online teacher at master degree level, one online teacher at undergraduate, one teacher at presential, and two other teachers from one from the north and another from the south. And I think it's very well represented, and we have a great vision of what is done in the LIS education in Mexico. Most of the program have one single course of introduction to research methods. And that is, like we have seen, like the US model, that mostly is they talk about literacy, they talk about some research methods, databases, and how to do research. And when they get at the fourth semester, the program begins to concentrate on qualitative methods and quantitative methods, but the focus is on quantitative methods rather than qualitative methods. Mostly, they are talking about descriptive statistics that is part of the program, and at the end they have the big part that is the research seminar on thesis seminar. At master degree level, it's a shame, it's like a struggle that we do not have at that level one course plan on research methods. Mostly all the assignments we have on a master degree level, the teachers are teaching about some techniques, some research method techniques at that level, and about what the assignment is about. When we are talking in the interview, most of the teachers have said they have the second place. They have some awareness that there's a lack of research methods in the country, and mostly they try to introduce research techniques during all those countries. I think these findings are some preliminary findings, and I'm very enthusiastic to see what after, I think in a month or two, we can have the whole findings of this great research. Thank you, Christina, Debbie, Juana, and Monica to be part of this great research team, and with your enthusiasm to do this research. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Egbert. And I just want to point out the references, but I can't move the slide, unfortunately. Let me stop sharing. It froze for a moment for me. But we have a list of references, and I'm sure that Albina will share the slides. So thank you very much, and we are open to questions.
Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Christina. And we would like to invite our Russian colleagues to participate in discussion and answer some questions that were sent you in advance. And today we have colleagues from 2 Russian national libraries, and I would like to invite to discussion Elena Zhabko, professor, Doctor of Sciences, the representative of the Presidential Library. Пожалуйста, Елена Владимировна.
Elena Dmitrievna. Dear colleagues, very glad to see you all. It's a good opportunity for us to participate in such wonderful event and to share our experience. Unfortunately, it's better for me to speak Russian, and I do hope that our interpreter will help me. It's not because my English so bad, but I do hope that it will be more good for you to hear our terminology in the good equivalent in English language. So now in Russian. дорогие коллеги, рада вас приветствовать. Хотелось бы сказать несколько слов о той научной работе, которая сейчас вот проводится повсеместно в российских библиотеках. И хочу сказать, что зачастую эти научные разработки тесно связаны с высшими учебными заведениями. Это проведение совместных работ прежде всего. Вот не далее, как 3 дня назад, я получила на рецензию коллективный учебник по менеджменту информационной библиотечной деятельности. В коллектив авторов, в которые входят представители 3 наших ведущих университетов. Это университет наш в Санкт-Петербурге, в Москве и в Казани. Это Татарстан, крупнейший регион нашей страны. И также представители национальных библиотек, это Российская государственная библиотека. И еще одна из таких отраслевых библиотек. Это как бы пример совместной деятельности вузов, университетов и крупных научных библиотек, которые создают какие-то вместе учебные пособия. Удачное очень соединение теории, потому что в основном, конечно, национальные библиотеки здесь выступают в качестве теоретиков, и, вернее, в качестве практиков, и теоретиков, значит, из университетов нашей культуры, наших высших учебных заведений. Это как бы вот этот важный такой момент. Основная, значит, если мы говорим, я думаю, мои коллеги из РНБ, из Российской национальной библиотеки меня дополнят, потому что я думаю, не больше как бы объем данных по этому направлению, но у нас ведутся в самых разных, да, ипостасях научные исследования, это и социологические, и мы работаем в направлении адаптации современных форм и методов доведения информации до пользователей. Это форматы метаданных современные. Мы внимательно смотрим за тем, как развивается мировое сообщество в этом направлении, и пытаемся в какой-то мере, значит, соответствовать тем требованиям, которые в настоящее время предъявляются нам внешней средой, потому что мы от нее очень, конечно, зависим много внешней средой. И в этой связи практика вот такая. Ну, естественно, конечно, мы занимаемся и разработками, связанными с изучением книжной культуры. Это там и российская, и западноевропейская книжная, там в Сибири, на Дальнем Востоке, в Центральной России. Большие исследования связаны с развитием чтения. Я не знаю, насколько у вас, как бы это развитая проблема стоит, но, к сожалению, современное поколение в России, оно не ориентировано на чтение традиционных книг. В основном это, конечно, использование электронных девайсов, это электронное чтение. И вот такая мощная школа, значит, поддержки традиционного чтения, вот сейчас тоже как направление. Потом работаем в плане формирования собственной теории электронных библиотек и цифровых коллекций. Причем рассматриваем электронные библиотеки на стыке с гуманитарными науками и рассматриваем в контексте так называемой цифровой гуманитаристики, Digital Humanities. И, значит, в этом мы работаем вместе с крупными университетами, с историческими факультетами, тоже как бы для нас это очень важно. Еще хочу сказать, что вот эта смычка, еще раз подчеркну, завершая свою короткую речь, что это смычка как бы науки и образования, деятельности крупных библиотек и вузов, это с нашей точки очень перспективно, потому что от того, насколько это будет удачное объединение усилий, настолько как бы эффективны будут впоследствии выпускники вузов на своих рабочих местах, когда они после окончания уже придут работать в библиотеки, в информационные центры и в любые другие, как бы сказать, ну даже не учреждения, а может быть, может организационное образование, которые занимаются генерированием, производством, обработкой и предоставлением информации и данных, и знаний в том числе, потому что сейчас одна из таких теорий, которая разрабатывается, направление идет, это, конечно, теория общества знаний, знаниево-ориентированное пространство. И вот в этой сфере мы делаем первые шаги и так надеемся, что каких-то успехов мы в этом достигнем в ближайшее время. Thank you for your attention. It's very pleasant for me to see you all. Thank you.
Спасибо, Елена Дмитриевна. Also, we have a colleague from the Russian National Library, Полина Ладыгина.
Здравствуйте, коллеги. Я буду говорить на русском, поскольку действительно есть проблемы в терминологии. Я боюсь, что не смогу достаточно четко изъясниться на английском языке. Прошу прощения. Спасибо Елене Дмитриевне за освещение таких наиболее важных научно-исследовательских тематик российских библиотек. Я немножко дополню, с ее позволения. В настоящее время хочу сказать, что в России научно-исследовательской деятельности библиотек уделяется большое внимание. Со стороны государства также намечаются какие-то шаги по поддержке и развитию данного направления деятельности библиотек. Хочу сказать, что в библиотеках, в большинстве центральных региональных библиотек России, 85 субъектов, работают в штате как кандидаты наук, так и доктора наук, готовятся диссертации, то есть постоянно идет профессиональный рост. В этом сотрудники заинтересованы, руководство заинтересовано. Как показывают исследования, такой профессиональный рост находит поддержку и в качестве денежных каких-то надбавок за степень. Соответственно, можно сказать, что в российских библиотеках научная исследовательская деятельность поддерживается. Не во всех библиотеках она входит в планы, поддерживаемые государством на уровне государственного задания. Однако такая работа ведется. И, как уже сказала Елена Дмитриевна, она нацелена на историко-культурные исследования региона, краеведческие исследования, исследования по истории библиотеки, истории книжного дела в регионе и многое другое. Социологические исследования чтения, потребностей в литературе определенных категорий пользователей. Также идет работа по созданию, написанию каких-то регламентирующих документов регионального уровня, например, по развитию библиотечного дела, по модернизации библиотек и прочее. То есть библиотеки активно принимают участие и в создании каких-то нормативных документов на уровне субъекта. Ну, должна заметить, что, конечно, основную работу в науке проводят национальные библиотеки России, Российская национальная библиотека, Российская государственная библиотека, Президентская библиотека. Они в соответствии с российским законодательством являются научно-исследовательскими учреждениями. Однако в то же время статус научно-исследовательского учреждения имеют и центральные региональные библиотеки субъектов федерации на основании указания данного вида деятельности в регламентирующем документе уставе. Таким образом, российские библиотеки не только имеют право на законодательном уровне вести научную деятельность, но и активно ее ведут. В настоящее время мы проводим как раз-таки масштабное такое исследование по всем регионам России на предмет занятия библиотеками НИР. Мы считаем, что это очень важно, и результаты, конечно, будут использованы и для каких-то управленческих решений на уровне Министерства культуры, и, естественно, все инициативы будут рассмотрены на конференции, которая состоится у нас в этом году и будет посвящена как раз научной работе библиотек в России. И также хочу поделиться новостью, что в этом году, спустя долгий промежуток времени, 7 лет, будет возобновлен и проведен всероссийский конкурс научных работ по библиотековедению, библиографии и книговедению. Конкурс направлен как раз, с одной стороны, на стимулирование и поддержку научной деятельности как коллективов библиотек, так и отдельных авторов, и также способствует выявлению новых лидеров, новых интересных работ, тематик. И, пользуясь случаем, я приглашаю к участию наших российских коллег. Также хочу сказать, что в этом году запланировано издание коллективной монографии, которая также будет посвящена такому комплексному анализу научной деятельности библиотек России, национальных библиотек, центральных региональных библиотек и академических библиотек. Благодарю всех за внимание.
Спасибо, Полина. У нас, we have also colleagues from Russian LIS schools, and I would like to introduce our professor from Moscow State University of Culture, Natalia Lopatina, a Doctor of Sciences, and she will share her experience.
Hello. Some problem?
Go ahead. Наталья Викторовна,
да, Альбина, вы меня слышите? Какие-то у меня проблемы происходят?
Мы вас слышим, хорошо.
Sorry, I'm not visible. Some problems with my camera. I'm glad that we have gathered by such an interesting topic today. И я тоже хотела бы перейти на русский, потому что, когда я стала думать, что говорить, оказалось, что будет много педагогических терминов, а как-то я, наверное, не очень с ними знакома. Потому что все-таки я буду говорить про обучение наших студентов методам научных исследований. И здесь в первую очередь мне хотелось бы сказать, что изучение методов научных исследований, готовность к проведению исследований в библиотеке – это одна из лучших традиций российского, советского и опять российского образования, библиотечного образования. И, наверное, всю историю библиотечного образования этому вопросу уделяется очень важное внимание. На протяжении многих лет мы предлагаем студентам особые дисциплины и модули, которые связаны с научными исследованиями, в частности, то, что связано с социологией чтения, с маркетинговыми исследованиями в библиотеках, с изучением библиотечной статистики. Обязательно мы уделяем внимание анализу текстов, потому что так или иначе, если мы говорим о библиографии, мы к этому обязательно приходим. Безусловно, мы сегодня говорим о библиометрических исследованиях, об изучении потока документов, потому что мы готовим специалистов для библиотек разного типа и вида. И если речь идет о магистрантах, то, разумеется, мы говорим о коллективных и индивидуальных научных исследованиях, в том числе педагогических исследованиях, потому что в России магистрант, выпускник магистратуры – это все-таки педагог. Соответственно, и бакалавры, и магистранты получают свою степень за исследования и проекты, которые они самостоятельно выполняют, и это тоже научные исследования. Наверное, мои коллеги из других вузов тоже будут говорить о своем опыте, но мне кажется, что обязательная специальная дисциплина по научно-исследовательской деятельности есть во всех вузах. И здесь мне хочется сказать спасибо Санкт-Петербургскому институту культуры и лично доктору Варгановой за тот учебник, который позволяет нам не тратить время на знакомство с теорией, а сразу начинать играть в исследования или давать студентам какие-то исследования по заданию библиотек. Помимо того, что все-таки у нас присутствует отдельная дисциплина, мы включаем и особые блоки в различные дисциплины, где данный вопрос является разумным. Например, в библиотечную социологию, в информационную культуру, там, где мы обучаем применению социологических методов для решения различных исследовательских задач библиотеки. Особое место занимают исторические исследования и работа с архивными материалами в рамках дисциплины истории библиотечного дела. В Московском государственном институте культуры есть специальный проектный практикум для бакалавров, где очень часто реализуются именно исследовательские проекты, и задания для них дают библиотеки. Но вообще по опыту самое результативное – это включать студентов в те исследования, которые проводят сами педагоги, которые тоже иногда являются исследователями. Хотя, наверное, я неправильно сказала, потому что педагоги у нас всегда являются исследователями, и тогда, когда мы работаем по исследовательским проектам вместе со своими студентами, то студенты учатся, ну вот как бы в русском языке есть такое выражение «с рук». То есть вот как мастер делал скрипки, его ученики смотрели, учились, так и мы учим своих студентов делать так, как делаем мы. В любом случае, в изучении, в подготовке к научным исследованиям, к изучению методов научных исследований, мы ориентированы на весь исследовательский процесс. Вот это о том, о чем говорили наши коллеги. То есть от составления программы исследования, обязательно ее реализация, обязательно анализ результатов. И, конечно, большое внимание мы уделяем социокультурному проектированию на основе этих результатов. И если для бакалавров это социокультурное проектирование на уровне отдельной библиотеки, то для магистрантов речь идет уже о библиотечной системе, об уровне региона и так далее. Вот для нас это принципиальный вопрос. Не просто научите собирать и анализировать данные, но обязательно применять их в своей работе. Я не знаю, как у моих коллег, но в Московском институте четкая установка. Если ты не собираешься применять полученные данные в работе и совершенствовать свою работу, не трать время и деньги на исследование. Если ты собираешься это делать, если ты видишь результативность, вот тогда ты это делаешь. Это первое. И второе, не делай каких-то масштабных шагов, если ты не исследовал ситуацию. И вот такой, я не знаю, этический вопрос, организационный вопрос, он очень-очень важен. Вот где-то на уровне даже, наверное, не просто профессиональных владений, а именно на уровне мягких skills. И, безусловно, тоже очень важная задача – уметь представить результаты своих исследований быстро, ярко, точно, на целевую аудиторию, на руководство, на большую аудиторию. И в этом плане у нас в институте специально существует электронный научный журнал «Культура, теории и практика», в который не только представители, не только студенты, которые обучаются библиотечно-информационной деятельности, но и студенты, которые обучаются по другим направлениям подготовки, могут публиковать свои статьи. И, конечно, все это требует времени и сил от педагогов, но мы считаем это очень важным и обязательно уделяем внимание этой работе. Thank you very much, and I hope that our meeting today will become the basis for a research collaboration for our students. Спасибо.
Спасибо, Наталья Викторовна. Another Institute of Culture, which has LIS school, is Kemerovo Institute of Culture, and we have our colleague Olga Dvoronenko. Ольга Владимировна, вас не слышно совсем. Нет, не слышно.
Я поменяла на другой микрофон, встроенный в камеру. Я хотела бы выделить несколько направлений в использовании методов научно-исследовательской работы наших студентов и вообще нашего факультета. Первое – это отражение методов научно-исследовательской деятельности, когда мы учим студентов, то есть все, что закреплено в дисциплинах. И здесь два направления. Студенты – это исследователи, которые будут продолжать свою исследовательскую работу в выпускных квалификационных работах, магистерских диссертациях, если мы говорим о магистрантах, и студенты, как будущие практики, которые должны научиться применять методы научных исследований в своей работе, профессиональной деятельности. И тогда мы говорим о научно-исследовательской работе библиотек. Это два основных направления, пронизывающих всю траекторию обучения наших студентов-бакалавров и магистрантов. И если мы проследим динамику, да, то есть как наши методы исследования изменяются в зависимости от курса изучения, то первые семестры обучения – это же, конечно, изучение социологических, социометрических методов исследования, когда студенты только начинают погружаться в эту деятельность. И здесь мы не просто основываемся на их теоретических знаниях, мы пробуем это применить на практике. То есть они должны провести свое небольшое социологическое исследование, обработать результаты, интерпретировать их. И второе, конечно же, это погружение в методы профессиональных исследований. И это начинается с курса научно-исследовательской работы библиотек, плавно перетекает в курс библиотековедения, и затем уже когда у них начинается профессионализация для профиля информационно-аналитическая деятельность, это курсы информационная аналитика, организация информационной деятельности, то мы с ними подробно изучаем классификацию методов информационно-аналитической деятельности, изучаем отдельные методы, которые в дальнейшем уже студенты описывают в своих выпускных квалификационных работах, используют их. Второе направление – это погружение уже в саму научно-исследовательскую работу студентов. И здесь мы с Галиной Ивановной Сбитневой уже на протяжении 10 лет организуем секцию для наших студентов в рамках конференции «Культура, искусство, поиски, открытия», которая называется «Методы информационно-аналитической деятельности». И здесь, конечно, студенты уже проводят небольшие исследования, используя эти методы, и представляют результаты этих исследований на конференции. Но тенденция последних 2-3 лет – это маркетинговые исследования, без них никуда. Студенты погружены в социальные сети, они погружены в маркетинг, им это становится интересным. И поскольку в основном это студенты 3-4 курсов, то вот дисциплина менеджмента и маркетинга для них это самый интерес представляет. И с этим и связана их тематика. Мы не ограничиваем здесь тематически студентов, они могут предлагать темы сами, либо мы с Галиной Ивановной предлагаем. Конечно, самый интерес и для нас, как для исследователей, и для студентов представляют библиометрические методы. И когда они начинают изучать документный поток, они говорят, насколько интересно, да, изучение этой тематики, и тоже включают студенты 2-го курса в эту секцию с этой проблематикой.
Третье основное направление для нас, конечно же, это подготовка выпускных квалификационных работ и магистерских диссертаций. Это результат научно-исследовательской работы студентов за весь период обучения. И от того, насколько они овладели компетенцией по научно-исследовательской работе, готовы к организации и проведению, самостоятельному проведению комплексных исследований библиотечно-информационной деятельности, конечно же, говорит вот сама подготовка магистерской диссертации или бакалаврской работы. И первая часть выпускной квалификационной работы наших и студентов, и магистрантов основывается на 3 методах в основном. Да? Первый метод – это метод терминологического анализа и операционализации понятий, и мы акцентируем на этом внимание наших выпускников, потому что изучение терминологии – это база профессиональной деятельности. Второе – это естественно использование библиометрических методов, когда они изучают документный поток и представляют результаты своего исследования, и историографические методы, когда изучается история вопроса. Вторая часть, естественно, отличается содержательно. Каждый студент, магистрант представляет свою практическую часть в исследовательской работе. И здесь мы с Галиной Ивановной Збитневой проанализировали методы, которые используют наши выпускники. И хочется сказать, что, конечно, на первый план выходят это эмпирические методы. Проектирование, ну, это динамика, это интерес последних нескольких лет. Проектирование, свод-анализ, маркетинговый анализ деятельности, технологический анализ. То есть все зависит от тематики. И хочется сказать, что мы с Галиной Ивановной изучили документопоток по этой теме, выявили за 10 лет около 7000 упоминаний методов научных исследований. И вот во всем потоке публикаций по реферативному журналу «Информатика» прослеживается тенденция. Используются методы метрические, да, наукометрические методы, библиометрические методы, социологические методы, метод терминологического анализа. И хочется сказать, что наши студенты, они вот как раз-таки в этом направлении и развиваются в данный момент. Как, наверное, недостаток небольшой, хочется сказать, маленький процент использования методов кавалиметрии, да, то есть вот методом оценки качества тех продуктов, проектов, которые готовят наши студенты, не всегда уделяется должное внимание. Но мы эту тенденцию видим, проблему осознаем, и, конечно же, вот включение этой темы в такие дисциплины, как библиотечно-информационное обслуживание, маркетинговая деятельность, оно, конечно, постепенно решит эту проблему, и я думаю, что вот этот вопрос, он будет закрыт. Я, пожалуй, все, что хотела сказать по этой теме. Альбина Самиуловна.
Извините, небольшой был технический сбой, что-то произошло на линии. Да, пожалуйста, можно продолжать, Ольга Владимировна.
Я закончила, да, все.
Thank you very much. Just a second. As you can see that each LIS school in Russia teach research methods, and I would like to introduce my colleague from LIS school in St. Petersburg, Olga Churashova, who represents the oldest LIS division on librarianship. And this division teaches the main course on research methods.
Hello, dear colleagues. I'd like to try to speak English. It was a big pleasure for me to listen to your nice reports, and when I was listening to you, I realized how many common points, common tasks, and common problems we have. So it was very interesting, and more, it was very inspiring to listen. So our department has been providing for a special course since many years. And during these years, this course has changed its names for many times. And now it's called, just a moment, it's called Methodological Tools of Library and Information Science. It's a main course for bachelor's degree. But also during bachelor's program, we have a lot of different disciplines in which we teach students how to use different kinds of research methods. For example, my course, Sociology and Psychology of Reading, Social Cultural Design, Library and Information Service, of course, and so on. So we study a lot of methods, questionnaire survey, interview, different kind of tests, content analysis, intent analysis, and of course, focus group methods, and so on. And on the other stage, when students have their master course, they have a special course too, where they can study these problems deeper, yes, and where they can make the research, the real research projects, very deep and very wide, and yes, and to present it to everybody. So it's called Theory and Methodology of Library and Information Science, yes, and studied while master programs. And of course, we include this using of research methods not only in teaching process, but also it's a main part of final students' qualification work. So our qualification work is usually divided for two parts. One part we call theoretical part, then students, they just analyze different points of view of different authors, yes. And the next part, the second part, is a research part, where they have to show how they use these research methods. Yes, they have to make the program of research, yes, make all the instrumentary by their own, of course, with consultation of their scientific supervisors. And then they have to present their results to the public. And that's the most difficult thing, yes. And as you told before, I realized we had the same problems. Some students are very, very afraid of this course, and they're afraid to use this research methods. They think it's too difficult, and they don't realize the necessity of this. So it's a big, big problem, big psychological problem for us too. So it's like this. If you have any questions, I'm ready to answer. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Olga. I think that all of us will agree that research methods courses are not so wonderful for students. Great, yes, they are not so excited about these courses. And I think it's the general problem for all countries. And as we discussed this issue 2 years ago in the conference in Vatican, and there were more countries represented. So that's also one of the problems for Russia. And in our LIS school, we are trying to to attract our students from their first year of their study to conducting research using different research methods. And we are doing this through student research groups, which are organized on different divisions. And so I would like to introduce my colleague Anna Grusova, who will share their experience, the experience of their division. Thank you.
Hello, dear colleagues. It's so nice to meet you. And also, I want to thank you for this, I don't know, great topic that you brought to us. Because yes, science, LIS science is like very important. And I guess in Russia, library information, it's more about practice than about science. So, and I guess science is really like image of our activity, for our work, and we need theory, and we need some contributions, and also yes, a lot of things abroad and a bit smaller things in Russia. So yeah, it's very important, and thank you very much. And in our division of information management, we have a really ancient, I can say that, school, scientific school. It's from I guess from the middle 20th century, so it's about 60, maybe 60 years old, and I guess we have a really strong tradition of research, and we have a great teachers, great supervisors, people who have names in Russian LIS science, and also I guess you've seen yesterday you've seen Rudzera Sergeyevich Gilerevsky, who is like classic, and it's really cool to have a chance to communicate with him, to have his vision and so on. So yes, really great, but I guess he's just like more the most known scientist in our field. But we have more, of course, just maybe not so popular, but really great, really cool. So we try to have this connection to our teachers, and of course to do something new, and I guess research activity for students is a great opportunity to show themselves, to get more profession insights, and so on. So in our division we have this students community for research, and it's optional. You don't have to have it if you don't want to. It's not about classes, but of course we have some classes on information research, and I am teacher. I am a teacher of it, but we have more for talented students who want to belong to something bigger than just library itself, to have more opportunities to find something, to contribute something, and to make a difference in the end. So I guess it's really cool, and our community is small because there is not too much students who wants to participate, but we have like stars from our from our department, and we start really early. We pick them on the first grade when they just start studying university. And then they, of course, they start from small things, and they start in collaboration with the supervisor, one of our professors, of course. But what I like, they have tendency to collaborate among themselves, like to have common researches, and after that publish some articles in our, we have a journal in our university for students. We have for professionals, like for professors, but we also have one for just students. But of course we have some strict rules how it could be, because you can't just write something. You should write a research paper to publish, and they really do it because they are really cool, our students. And after that, from the first grade, they start this research, and then it goes to their semester works, and after then to their thesis for diploma. So it's like they're growing, you know, from the first grade, and they have a lot of material to fourth grade. I'm talking now for bachelors. Of course, we have masters too, but masters are more intent to research, because master education is about research. So I guess it's maybe more important to have bachelor's undergraduate students for this activity, and it's really cool to see them growing, to have new results. So yeah, I guess it's really cool part of our job. I like it very much. And among topics, so of course all our professors are involved in this, and everyone picks some students who I don't know, you know, sometimes there is a connection between some specific persons. Yeah, it's not like you can pick everyone. You should have something. You should have something for it. It's like a relationship, I guess. So sometimes it's I just see some students and I know they are mine, just, you know, from the first sight. But of course it can be different. So I guess we all have our people in the end. And among topics are of research are our professional interests, because we have like diverse interest in our division. Mine now, for example, is information literacy and media literacy, because I see it very important to find ways to teach people, not librarians, but people, how to criticize, how to find information, how to evaluate it, and after all, to what believe, because you can't really believe in anything now, and you need some strong understanding what is good and what is right by your own. You can't just see it in some, I don't know, website or TV show, or even sometimes scientific articles aren't really true. How to say it, I don't know, but I guess you understand what I mean. So it's now maybe my area, and also I'm very fascinating of maybe you of course know this Raya Fidel from USA, who wrote a great book a couple years ago, maybe 10 years ago, actually, about human information interaction. And for me, it was like, I don't know, like a prophecy or something, because it's really cool and a lot of things there. So I guess I try to continue this with my students, because there are a lot of gaps in studying information behavior, human information interaction, and so on. So this is my areas, and my students with me, we're doing this, but other professors have more interest and different interest about library information technology, about library information science itself and its theories, bibliometrics, of course, and also now we start with altmetrics and webometrics and so on. And I see great opportunity for research in the online environment, because bibliometrics traditionally it's more about paper science publications, but we have a lot of things now, and I guess there are a lot of problems that should be solved with the information and internet, and we need some more metrics and more technologies for this. So it's our field too. And I guess we have some sometimes we have students who know exactly what they want, who know exactly what they are interested in, and we try to give them opportunity to do what they like, and I guess they appreciate it. So if you have any questions, I guess I can answer, but I don't know what to say else. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. And we are running out of time already. And I know that two of our colleagues, it's early morning right now for Kavana and Monica. It's yes, 4 a.m. So good morning to you. So I think it's we had a very productive panel discussion this morning, this night, and we are happy that we could do that, and we are very happy that you agreed to participate in our conference on LIS education. And also, of course, we have more questions and more experience to share. So my suggestion to you, maybe we can organize some kind of workshop seminar on these topics all together and discuss our experience. And when we have more time and maybe some more convenient time for you too, we can get up earlier next time, so it won't be so late for you. And also it would be very interesting to conduct a research and compare our experience and how we teach research methods in our LIS schools. Thank you very much, Christina, Debbie, Kavana, Monica, Egbert. We are very thankful to you, and good night.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.